What's up guys, Caesar Media here. Today is gonna be the best part of FT build series, and that's obviously a sarcasm because today I'm working on the main harness on the car. Actually the chassis harness, should I say. So this here is the dash harness. I removed the dash and this was the harness that was kind of behind it up towards the top. So now that it's being kind of unhooked, I can finally get the chassis harness out of the car and really kind of go through what cable does what connector does what, and remove whatever I don't need. Alright, so first thing I did was just pull this through out from the dash area. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connectors hooked up to it, and the previous owner of course just used electrical tape and connected the chassis harness. Why would you do that to chassis harness? At least solder it and use shrink wrap. But of course this is the reason why I'm having so many issues with this RX7, and the whole reason why I'm rebuilding it. So this came out of there, and these two are the ABS. This is the ABS sensor, ABS connector, speed sensor for the ABS system, and this is the wiper motor, and this is basically what came into the engine bay through this way here and hooked up to the module over here. So now I'm just gonna go down this way and try to basically feel everything out. This one is the right hand drive light, right side marker light, which is the light right here, and this harness will basically come in here under the radiator, and you got like relay bunch of relays here which I need to remove, and then under here and here the harness again, and it goes under the driver's side again. Alright, so I was able to pull the harness out from the fender wall area. I disconnected from the headlight, from the blinkers, and now it's over here. And to get to the harness under the radiator area, I found out that I'm gonna have to remove the radiator. So what I did was undid this top 4 screws here and 4 more screws down here, undid the radiator hose, upper and lower, and one bolt that holds the radiator to the frame, which is this bolt here, and there's another one on the left side, and this whole thing should just drop. I have to remove this power steering cooler because for one I'm gonna flip it. Radiator just dropped, and there's power steering fluid and coolant just going everywhere, and things are getting kind of messy, but it is out. So there's a can filter right there and the radiator shroud. Alright, so now I come to the right side of the car here, and this harness I'm just gonna pull through the engine bay. Oh, and it seems like there was one connector that came out of nowhere. I think this is actually a speed sensor, but I'll look at that later in the wiring diagram. Alright, so I'm finally halfway through this. I'm on the driver's side of the harness now. And before I start removing stuff again, let me just go over some of the items I got here. Tied into the chassis harness, the alternator. This is the alternator signal wire. I'm gonna be just cutting this right in the middle, and I labeled both of them so I know what it is later on. I have here the starter wire. This is to send the signal to start the vehicle. So that's cut off, and the starter wire is actually wired up to the engine harness, which is this big wire limb over here. And I have here Mazda B/W. I still actually don't really know what this is, and it's hooked up to the engine ECU, but I labeled it. I'm gonna look it up. For now I don't need it, so I'm just gonna cut it. This is actually power wire, and this fuse box over here on the left is basically power distribution box for the FD. It's like the main power supply right here. This cable is actually connected to the alternator, Now over here on the right is the fuse box, and it should just pop out with one screw and one clip here. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this fuse box. I want to relocate it, but depending on how hard it is, I'm gonna just keep it as it is where it is. But as you can see, without this fuse box, everything looks very clean. Now I'm back inside the car, and to remove the harness, I'm gonna have to undo all these connectors here so that it's free to go. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm just gonna start unhooking everything. I took a bunch of pictures on my cell phone so that hopefully when I'm reinstalling this, there won't be too many issues. Alright, so I have disconnected all the connectors. I think I actually have to pull out the fuse for those of you who are doing this. And behind the fuse is actually a few connectors that the main harness gets connected to, so you need to remove the fuse box as well. Alright guys, so after working on this for 2 days, basically the harness is finally out. This is the driver's side of the car, and I'm gonna review this later on and really figure out which one does what. But this is the driver's side. This was basically under the dash into the driver's side under the hood. So you got your crash sensors, speed sensor, you got your washer sensor, cruise control, stuff like that. And then you got your side marker on the front left side. You got the fuse box, of course, the charging system, a bunch of relays, headlight, and going across to the center of the car is the relay box here, a couple grounds, and then you got the headlights on the blinker on the passenger side of the car, and it goes back into the passenger side inside the car. Some of these hook up to the ECU, and this was actually the stock rotary ECU, this yellow cable, which obviously I won't be using. And this goes to the dash items and ABS and wiper motor, stuff like that. So this is just the beginning of my rewire process. It's finally out, and it was more of a pain than I thought, but I can finally go through and decide why I'm gonna keep, what I'm gonna throw out, and stuff like that. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. I know this episode was kind of a long one, but I wasn't expecting it to be this pain of an ass process.